Conflict at one level is health at another.
And we're going to take this conversation into a place it has never been before.
Oh, yes.
We're just going to settle in here and have fun with this, because this is where this conversation of deliberate creation has now evolved to. We've been saying for a long time that contrast is all part of it. And you all take it to mean that you have to put up with what is not wanted in order to understand what is wanted. But consider for a moment, just let this sentiment settle into you so that you can really feel it in the way that we mean it. What if the very contrast that you think you don't want is a gift of the vortex moving into your grid? What if it is the grid filling in with the next logical step, given the whole of who you are and what you want? Are you following? In other words, what if the contrast that you think you don't want is not something unwanted? You're not being tested by it. It's a piece of information. It's a piece of experience in order to help you formulate with greater clarity what you are wanting. And since you are expanding beings, since we are all eternal beings, then don't you think it's time for us to embrace the contrast? And in doing so, don't you think it's time to embrace your own worthiness and to stop condemning yourself when you stand in a place that you or someone else would deem not perfect? Don't you want to say, those beatings or that experience, that thing I thought that I did not want was something attracted by the best part of me, not attracted by the worst part of me? That's the piece that we wanted to stick in here. Because you keep thinking that when contrast comes, that it's an indication of something that you have done wrong, when it never is. It's an indication of something else that you are doing right on your continuing path of eternal evolution, you see. And in the moment you embrace the contrast is a good thing, as part of the process, as clarifying, not frustrating, or as stimulating, not embarrassing, or as valuable, not off the track, as on the track, not off the track.
I get that, but then if I get physical challenges because of it, then I'm thinking, hey, I am doing something wrong because I'm putting sticks in my wheel.
Well, the physical challenges only mean, in other words, if the more it manifests, it just means you didn't catch the early indicators, and you needed the necessary contrast to get bigger in order to help you to come to a more determined statement.
But I'm laughing about myself because I do see that I'm aware of it happening, and I'm able to push it away.
You're doing everything right except asking this question from the standpoint that you should stop that. You see what we're getting at?
Yeah.
In other words, why not say, this is how my life works. This is how my life works, and it's working really well for me. And I wouldn't trade any of it because I'm having such a robust, frolicking good time in the process. Can you hear that? Can you feel that? Somebody convinced you along your physical trail that you are here and that you ought to be over there and that you should go directly there and you should do it now, and if you don't, there's something wrong with you. And that was a flawed premise. Because the actuality of it, what you knew from your broader non-physical perspective, is here you are, and blessed that is over there, and oh, is it ever going to be joyful on your way over there? Joyful, Abraham? What if I have to go through unwanted things? What if I have sadness? What if I have sickness? What if I experience unwanted things? That doesn't sound very much like deliberate creation. Sounds like focusing to us.
And what if it is?
Sounds like defining to us. Sounds like clarifying to us. Sounds like launching new rockets
Absolutely.
to us. Sounds like the reason that you came into this experience to us. You didn't say, I'll go, but I want to go into a feathered nest. Feather my nest and then I'll go.
But
I'll be bored, but I'll get over it.
But Abraham, I know all that.
We know you know.
Yeah.
But there's something you don't know. Let's figure out what it is.
What if it's not my contrast, but if it's the people around me that are having contrast, and they wanting to hear my version of dealing with the contrast, and then when I tell them how to deal with the contrast, they don't want to listen to it because they want me to commiserate, and then I retreat myself from it, and then they are pissed off with me because I'm not a commiserating person that I used to be. I used to be so empathetic, and now I'm so disappointing to my parents because I'm not listening to their agony anymore, and I love them very much, and I get so tired.
Everyone's relating. So here's our question to you.
And then people think I'm cold, egoistical, and egoist. And I say, yeah, I am. And I'm enjoying it. See ya. Which is fine with colleagues or with people that are
But
not
you
my close
see,
friends.
there's
My
a
mother.
very big piece of this that you're leaving out of your explanation.
But you're going to give it to me.
Yeah. And that really big piece that you're leaving out of it is that it bothers you when they are upset with you.
How can I stop
Therefore,
that?
you're not where you think you are. In other words,
Yeah.
not commiserating with them is one thing. Commiserating about them after the fact is another thing. And that's what you're doing here. You're commiserating about them after the fact. In other words,
True.
you are bothered. And,
Yeah.
and until you're not bothered by them
Yeah.
being bothered, you
Yeah.
haven't figured it out.
True.
And so somehow there comes up the state of mind when you appear to yourself as rotten. And therefore want to get away from their bodies to a purely geological electronic state, which is called spirituality. You know what most people think of as spirituality? Something totally abstract, something mathematical, something electronic, something that has no kind of pus or blood or goo, especially no flesh in it. See? That's the spiritual state. So that expresses the feeling of these people. Fundamentally, who are at variance with their essential life. As if one could escape from this flesh. What I'm getting to, I'm giving you something out of the general history of religions. Show that what has been meant by the mystical state, the state of samadhi or awakening in certain traditions, is not this state of trance, but a state of consciousness in which you can perfectly well carry on your daily affairs. And of course, what is meant by a bodhisattva as the ideal type of Buddhist person is that he is not wrapped, that he is actively engaged in the life of the world, because he has gone beyond the illusion that nirvana is to be found away from everyday life. Why do you have to crawl off into a hole, or go to a Zen monastery, or retire and be quiet, when this is only a withdrawal? So there are all sorts of people in the religious racket who are going through revolving doors. And they're very bitter about people who walk right through and leave the door behind, because they say, well, you haven't paid enough respect. You must really understand religious one-upmanship. It's a tremendously important thing. And don't be caught out by this.